Hello. Today I'm going to share with you a machine that I just finished restoring, and I'm very pleased with how it came out. Everything's working well here. So this is an Apple IIe enhanced model. I assume if you're watching this video you're already somewhat familiar with this machine, but I will just quickly give a brief overview of the stats of it. So since this is the enhanced Apple IIe, it has a 65 CO2 CPU running at 1.023 megahertz. This system has 128K of RAM because it does have the optional 80-column 64K expansion card, and then it also has the Apple mouse interface installed, an Apple Super Serial card, which I'm going to demonstrate in a moment how we can actually use that to connect to our modern PC and be able to load disk images. And then it has the Disk 2 controller with two Disk 2 drives, which have been completely disassembled, cleaned, speed adjusted, and the whole machine itself was cleaned. I took all the plastics off, soaked and scrubbed those, took every single keycap off the keyboard, soaked and scrubbed those because they were very grimy, and then soldered in 3 new key switches for keys that were broken. Unfortunately, there is one little thing about this that a true Apple purist definitely wouldn't like. If you notice the key here, and you'll see later, I'll show some more up close videos of this, but the delete key is actually a backspace key that came off of a Macintosh 512K keyboard parts that I had because I didn't have an original for the Apple II. Okay, so as you can see, we have the machine booted up here into mouse paint, and you can see here the mouse works, and this is basically a Apple II version of Mac Paint. You can even see here it says based on Mac Paint. But that was fun. You can see it works well. The graphics display well. This display I took apart and replaced a couple capacitors on it, and cleaned the jack internally, and then also cleaned all the outer plastics. It does have a couple little cracks in the corners, and that I'll show you up close in a little bit. But for now, I just want to demonstrate some of the software that I'm going to include with this setup. So as you can see, currently there it was in mouse paint. But I have also created a disk here for ProDOS 2.42, which is actually a newly updated version of ProDOS within the past couple of years that, interestingly, the Apple II community has kept going. So this has some utilities. It has Bitsy By, like just a nice little file browser that it boots into. And then on here we also have an image for ADTPro. So this software allows us to use the Super Serial card, which is connected with a 25-pin to 9-pin serial cable over to my Windows 10 PC running the ADTPro server software. And then basically if I hit receive here, I can get, you can see directory of Precision T3600. So this is my Windows machine folder that's shared with ADT. And then I can just pick a disk image and put a blank disk in and write that software to a disk. So I am including the original mouse paint disk here that came with the mouse card. There's a couple manuals. So we have just the regular 2C owner's manual, the Apple Mouse 2, and the Disk 2 instruction manual. Those are a little tattered around the edges, but overall they're not in bad shape. And then I've created a few new disks just to give whoever ends up being the new owner of this machine something to start with. So we have the ProDOS disk that you can see here that we just booted, and then I also have Apple II Desktop, which is basically a visual file manager, kind of a precursor to like the GS OS design on the 2GS. Let me shut this off and then we'll boot into that. And there is actually a new version of the Apple II desktop that I know some folks in the community are working on. I haven't actually tried that yet, but I'm excited to play with that. And I know that adds some newer features that are desirable in a point-and-click OS that didn't exist in the original. But either way, the original's still pretty useful, just to have a visual interface for copying disks and things like that. I don't think anybody really used this to do serious work back in the day. Like, they would have just booted into AppleWorks or whatever they were going to use directly. They wouldn't have really used this unless they were maybe copying some files over. But it could format disks, erase disks, copy disks, kind of that standard stuff. And it's just fun to play with and kind of show off if you have a Apple IIe on display in your collection and are showing it to people. So you can see this was made in 1986. And then I also just made a copy of the MECC Classic, the Oregon Trail, because as far as I'm concerned, every Apple II needs a copy of the Oregon Trail to go with it. Okay, so now that I've just kind of went over the overview of what this machine is, I'm going to show you kind of what I did to refurbish this, and we'll move the monitor aside, pop the lid off, show the inside, and show more up-close images of the condition of the case and other components. So we use the MECC Computer Inspector. So let's restart into this. This disk, the main tool I use on this for restoring these Apple IIs is the option to do the disk drive speed calibration. So first of all, I'll show you that. So if we go to drive speed, basically you put a disk you don't care about in the drive, and then go here. It warns you that it will damage the disk, and then it starts spinning it, and you can see the speed here. So that should be right at 299 RPMs. I can see after adjusting this one and letting it sit for a little while, it is dipping down to 298 occasionally. So I will just nudge that up just the tiniest little bit. There's a little potentiometer inside this drive if you take the case off that you spin, and you can do that live while this program is running, and it will show you the drive. Ideally, it should be 299. As long as it's between 296 and 302, the drive should be able to read disks fine. Look, it looks like after it's been running for a second, it's up to 299. So it may just be that the belt was a little stiff or something as well, because it is a little bit cold here now. But that looks like it's good. When I started, this drive was actually at about 280 RPM, which explained why it couldn't read or write disks properly. And then we can do the same thing for the top drive, so make sure we take our MECC Computer Inspector disk out, because otherwise it could mess it up. You'll see that one right there is also at 299 RPM. When I had these drives apart, I completely cleaned everything out from inside, cleaned the heads, made sure all the gears and everything were loose and working the way they should. And then the MECC Computer Inspector here can also just give some information about what's in the machine. So you can see here, slot 2, we have the Super Serial. Slot 3, the extended 30 column card, which is actually in the auxiliary slot, along with the memory increase. And then slot 4 has the Apple II mouse, and slot 6 has the disk 2 card, and the other slots are empty. And then it also has patterns here for adjusting the monitor and making sure everything displays and looks as it should and is in focus, etc. It can test a printer if we had one, which we don't. It can do a RAM test, and you'll see here that both the main and the auxiliary memory test out good. I did actually leave this on a continuous test overnight for about 24 hours, just to make sure everything was truly good with it and that nothing was gonna burn out or wear out after stressing it for a little bit. And then you could also do a joystick test in here if you need to, and then information just explains the software. So that's definitely a useful tool to have if you're working on these Apple IIs. So now I'm going to shut the camera off for a minute here and move the monitor off the top and get at a different angle so that I can show you more up close and personal what is inside here. Okay, so now we're ready to go under the hood. One thing I love about these Apple IIs is how easy they just pop right open. And you can get right into the inside. So you can see here we have 3 cards, with 4 cards actually, the 64K 80 column card, the super serial card, the mouse interface, and the disk 2 card. The logic board has been completely cleaned of all dirt in an ultrasonic cleaner. All the chips were removed, contact cleaner was used on all of the sockets to ensure good connections and on all of the expansion slots. We opened up and took apart the power supply to replace a exploded filter capacitor that must have went bad in there previously, and verify that all of the output voltages, the 5 and 12 volt lines, are right within the specifications that they should be. So that all works great. And then here, once again, you can see that little out of space place backspace key there. And in the video, these letter keys actually look a little lighter, but that's just due to the light reflecting from my window. The coloring of all of these keys do match good, even though that guy doesn't belong there, I know. But if we spin this around here, I can show you the back. So all of the port covers are in place as they should be. Just put the camera over here. So here is the back of the Apple II. As you can see, the ports are in good condition. The port covers for all of the non-filled in ports are here. For some reason this one kind of continuously bulges out and I can't seem to make that stay, but it's not that bad. And you can see the cards here from the side. There's our super serial, mouse interface, disk 2, and you can see how nice that board came out after cleaning. Unfortunately, there is a little bit of case damage here on the corner of the display by the power button, and then also a little chip on this other corner. Surface of the screen itself is in very good shape, and gives a very crisp image, and the keyboard, as you can see, is in great shape other than that. There is a slightly lighter spot here where you can see there used to be an Apple logo sticker. It actually stands out a little more in the video than it does in real person. When you're further away from it, you can't notice it as well for sure. But that could be evened out if somebody wanted to retrobrite this case, but it's pretty even color-wise, so I didn't see the necessity to do that. The Apple IIe badge is in good shape. The sides of the machine are in good shape. The disk 2 drives are in good shape. They both have all 4 of the rubber feet, as does the bottom of the Apple IIe itself.